This is Bruce Mackenzie. I've been active in the Mars Society since the beginning, and some other groups as well, National Space Society and SSI. Can you hear me better now? Okay, good. And I'm also the executive director of the Mars Foundation, which is working towards settlement of Mars, the technology about how to actually live there. This is not a membership organization, but so many people are active in both Mars Society and Mars Foundation. We also are working on education and public outreach. What I'm going to present to you now has nothing to do with Mars. It does not belong in this convention, except you're probably interested, especially if you came to this room. So kind of my view is that we need to get out in space. Civilization needs to expand and thrive and not be limited to one planet. And you can kind of take that a step further and not be limited to one solar system. We should go to Mars and set up a permanent settlement there, then go into the asteroids. According to Arthur C. Clarke, somebody with my name sells hydrogen from the outer solar system back to the moon. I'm very much in favor of that. I want to make that science fiction story come real. But this is even beyond that. Okay, so we're assuming that we have settled enough asteroids that we have manufacturing in space, that we can manufacture space settlements, that we can use beamed energy, and that we can use beamed energy to move spacecraft around the solar system. Where do we go after that? The thing is, you can take a space settlement, put a big solar sail on it or some other mechanism, and start leaving the solar system. And where do we go? Now, I'm actually talking about something even beyond that, which is do it faster and further. So assume that we've barely figured out how to do interstellar travel. But we don't want to just go to one star and stop and wait several generations and build up an industry there and then go to one more star and stop and wait several generations. What I propose is that we have a systematic settlement of star systems, that you just head out and you start seeding star systems with life. If I say this to the general public, they'll laugh at me. Okay, you're welcome to laugh, but at least I'm preaching to the choir. Okay, so this is kind of to stretch your imagination and say, wow, we're not even limited to one solar system, or even 2 or 3 stars. So the basic operation I came up with, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I actually wrote this up for an interstellar conference a year ago, but I wasn't able to present it, and I couldn't present it without me present. You get a string of starships carrying people, or, well, for now, assume they're carrying people, and they go all in the same path, and they drop off or pick up supplies at stars as they pass without stopping. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to start a spacecraft moving or to stop it. So you get this big, massive space station, space station-like, more like a space settlement, moving really fast, going past one star after another, and you don't stop. You just drop off little things. So, all right, how am I going to do this? Can you see a cursor? I have to leave the mic for a minute. Okay, what I'm going to show you is the diamonds are stars. The circles are large traveling spacecraft with lots of people on board. Okay, so here the first traveling interstellar ship is passing a star. They drop off small spacecraft, and they probably use microwave or laser powered that solar sails to slow them down. These fall into orbit around the star, and they try to set up settlements. Okay, so to repeat for the video camera, as one of the convoy ships passes a star, you drop off the little ones, you decelerate them. Are people comfortable with this concept? Okay. Now there's another convoy ship, another circle back there, another one further back, and another one further back. After a few generations, so a few people and some supplies are dropped off at a star system. They find some asteroids, and as an exercise for the reader, they create a new civilization. Okay, just assume that can be done. Okay. So you're mining this asteroid, you're setting up habitats, you have generations of people being born, and you're also building big laser banks. And you're stockpiling equipment and materials. And some generations later, another starship passes you. And you use your lasers and you accelerate these supply capsules to them, and you replenish their supplies. Okay, and then some number of decades or hundreds of years, another one passes, and you also resupply that ship. Okay, so it's sort of like, there's a bunch of ships crossing the Pacific Ocean going to these all the Polynesian islands, and at every one you drop off or pick up supplies, but you keep moving. You keep that kinetic energy. And now the first ship is going to get pretty hungry. They're going to run low of materials and supplies. And I'll show you later how they can take a zigzag route and fall in behind the convoy. Hence the name Leapfrog across the galaxy. So you're kind of doing, these ships are leapfrogging each other. Okay. Option one, I already alluded to, it's a human generation ship. You have something like a Jerry O'Neill space settlement, probably a lot smaller, maybe it's 100 people, maybe it's a few hundred, maybe it's 50, but somewhere in that neighborhood, and you live there generation after generation, recycling some kind of power source, maybe fusion power or something. And you're going pretty slow, because this is a pretty heavy ship. So you're talking hundreds or thousands of years for the time scale for this. But it is technically feasible. Okay? It's way out there, but it could be done. It is possible to do interstellar travel. Okay? You also want a biological ecosystem, I assume. Okay, so option one, human generation ship. Option two is we somehow use artificial intelligence or download human intelligence into computers, and we have computerized automated ships that are, either there's the, human intelligence within it, or, our descendants are controlling that ship one way or the other. Whether they consider them as people or machines, but we send these intelligent ships throughout interstellar space. These can be a lot smaller. And you can actually shut down a lot of the power drains between stars. So you might be solar powered as you arrive and leave stars and have some backup power for coasting. I can take one or two questions on this if you want. Declan? And hi, by the way.
Pardon?
Question?
Yeah, I did come in the middle, so if I off base, you know how to shoot. Is this suppose that we are identifying a habitable planet by every star?
Yes. So the question is...
That's kind of the assumption.
Well, yes and no. So Declan asked, are we assuming we find a habitable planet in every star? No. But we're assuming that the first ship or the first two ships have really good sensors, and they have a lot of free time on their hands. And they're scanning ahead, looking for habitable stars, habitable systems, Earth-like planets perhaps. Or what might be easier, since the people who left the solar system probably were living in space habitats for a few generations before they did this. So they might prefer asteroids and comets. It might be easier for them to land next, dock with an asteroid, use that material to build a larger and larger space settlement rather than a planet. With a planet, you're kind of stuck with whatever gravity it has, you're kind of stuck with whatever temperature equilibrium it has, and it's really hard to terraform a planet. It's a lot easier to disassemble an asteroid and build things. And you want to do it before the next ship comes by, because they're going to be hungry, and you kind of have an obligation to help them out. I got to keep going, sorry. By the way, this, anybody know Eric Drexler and the nanotechnology stuff? Okay. this idea kind of had a genesis with a discussion in the nanotechnology group that Eric started at MIT, and I was one of the people that helped to get started. Eric was suggesting that with nanotechnology, where you can make a molecularly precise machine, every atom in the right place. And bear in mind, Eric was very involved with mass drivers for, and Jerry O'Neill. So they designed a really tiny mass driver, with really tiny magnets shooting basically bacteria-sized spacecraft out the back end. And his proposal was to fly through space, dropping off bacteria-sized machines on asteroids as you go. The problem is you keep going faster and faster and faster. And if there's an extraterrestrial intelligence out there and they see that the Earth is sending out very sharp objects going at a fraction of the speed of light in all directions, and then we lose control of them, they go flying through space, they won't like us because we're sending shrapnel. So this is trying to solve the problems by actively steering, falling back. In the case of Eric's plan, he was proposing that when you're running low in energy, you head into a star and just go splat in a star and stop. Okay, by the way, one last thing about the artificial intelligence ships, where our intelligence is downloaded into machines, is you could conceivably transmit the intelligence from one spacecraft to another. So you could choose to abandon the first ship and all the so-called people, the software people in the first ship transmit themselves back to the second ship. Now, this is way out. I'm just saying it's not impossible. Okay, I gotta keep going. Any propulsion mechanism that you can use for interstellar flight could be adapted to this convoy scheme. What I like the best is the beam microwave or beam laser. Well, beam laser, because the laser beams stay collated further out. There's even a proposal for putting a Fresnel lens out around like Neptune or Uranus and having the lasers back around Mercury, where they get lots of power. So you shine this laser beam out toward Neptune, and it spreads a little bit, and then you refocus it. And so you could propel these ships quite a ways out. There were lots of other proposals for interstellar travel, and I'm not an expert in those. I'll take one question on beam laser, if there is one. Okay, let's keep going. Robert Forward and I actually got this information from Jeffrey Landis, but it was originally from Robert Forward. They tried to cost out the size of different ships, how fast did they could get, how much energy they needed to accelerate. This is not my data, I don't know it well. You see some of those are in thousands and millions of gigawatts of power. So again, when we have a solar system-wide civilization, then we'll have this kind of power available. It's kind of beyond us for now. But by the way, the per capita energy use has been going up, very rapidly, and it might keep going. Okay, so whether we have a human beings in a convoy in a multi-generation ship or artificial intelligence ships, in either case, we have this convoy of ships moving from lower left to upper right. That first ship starts running out of material and energy and whatever. They've been making these little seed ships and dropping them off, and they're running low of material. So they take this big loop, they do gravity turns around stars, and they fall back in behind the ship. Okay, so the lower left, the red square is the first ship. The red square takes this detour route, they fall in behind the other three ships up here. And now when they pass a star system, they get supplies and energy and material replenished to them. I should have mentioned gravity assist turns. If you're going very fast and you go close to a star, the gravity will turn your path. Okay, so that's what I'm assuming you use to steer, is you look ahead, you see the stars, you plan where you're going to go, and then you take close passes by stars to do the steering. Any questions on gravity turns that? Yeah, go ahead.
Due to this very high velocity, the effect of the gravity turn will be quite small.
Yes, yeah. You only turn a small angle, so you might have to use several stars to make a major turn. Yes, and unfortunately, the faster you go, the less you turn. Yeah. But most star systems probably don't have habitable planets or asteroids. And so you might have several stars to turn. By the way, you could also send these little seed packets a little bit off course. You know, you could colonize a star system even if you don't go close to it. That's kind of a subtle detail. All right, a lot of technical challenges. Again, I'm assuming we've already solved, you know, how to take an asteroid and make a space settlement. But the propulsion is a problem, closed life support. Energy between stars is a really big problem. You can have solar-powered settlements in and around Earth and Mars and asteroids, but you really can't in interstellar. You're probably going to want to be able to repair and rebuild any portion of your ship. The last item, research and development in route. Okay, let's say we have these communities of a few hundred people, and then there are several communities, and they're all traveling through space. They're going to be really interested in what they're going to do, what they're doing, and they might be dreaming of how to improve their propulsion, how to improve their life support. So I think there are going to be some major technical advances made by the people on board these ships, because they're interested. You know, they grew up with these technologies. They're trying to make them better. They want to get to the next star system faster. A remote sensing of the planets ahead. You know, we currently can't do that, but okay. One of the big items is how do you supply a package to one of these ships, one of these convoy ships that provides energy? You know, do you have a big tank of deuterium maybe for fusion? So that's something that I'm not sure of. I think that's one of the major problems here. Okay, societal issues might be bigger than technical. You want the fewest number of people for the lightest weight, the less mass, the less consumption, but you also want a stable society in each of these ships. They might be many years away by light travel, by radio travel from the ship behind. You know, so they cannot stay in constant touch. They might even be a generation away from another ship by radio. You know, what kind of government do they have? Is it a stable government? Is it a stable society? So if anybody, if there's some science fiction writers in the room, here's some material for you. You know, maybe you actually want to create something akin to a religion, where you raise these people and you say, okay, your goal in life is to run this ship for start out a generation ship, and it'll be your grandkids who get there. But you have a moral obligation to your grandkids to get there, and then they have a moral obligation to the people behind them to give them supplies. I'm not the right person to invent religions, but let your imagination wander. What happens if there's a dispute? How do you plan? You know, do all these convoy ships do joint planning of what route they're going to take? Or is it only the first ship that plans the route? What happens if the people in the second ship are annoyed that they didn't like the route? Okay. I'll take one or two comments on, psychology and societal. And anybody want to get Declan and then you?
I'm sorry, I have two questions, but this one is, how do you figure these number of vessels going out in different directions will be able to communicate?
Okay, no, they're not going in different directions. They're all following the same path. And they really would have trouble communicating. They would have great big radio antennas sending information back and forth from each other. But they're a tremendous distance apart. And it might be, days, months, years, even multiple years for the radio communication. But they're following the same path, and the first ship drops off supplies and establishes a settlement in the star, and then the ships behind them benefit from it. And
I think that's terrific.
okay, and I can fill you in later. Okay, in the back row, but guy against the wall, I'm sorry, in the back row, yeah, dark shirt.
Long before we have this technology for interstellar spaceflight, we'll have the technology to send automated spacecraft to the focal point of the sun.
Yes.
And so we will have mapped out the planetary systems in our region of the galaxy. Pretty good images. We'll be able to see continents and oceans and a lot of that. So we'll know what's out there. And second of all, give credit where credit's due. Theodore von Neumann thought of all this in the 1940s. And thirdly, these slow glow generation ship things, I'm always reminded of that great old Far Side cartoon where the caveman is just finishing up chiseling out the first wheel out of stone, and in the background his buddies are whizzing by, waving at him in a Cadillac.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what would happen. Progress is not going to stand still back on the earth, unless Captain Sebelius manages to stop civilization.
Sure.
So somebody in a faster ship is going to pass you up, and that's always going to happen.
Okay. Yeah. So let me repeat just a couple things on that. No, sorry. So just for the videotape, he was saying several things, one of which is there's always the problem with interstellar travel that if you start out slowly, several generations later, someone's going to leave Earth and go faster and pass you. And yes, that can happen. However, this could be applied to the later ships as well. And maybe you can settle a few star systems and then somebody with faster technology goes past your few star systems and maybe hopefully shares their technology with you, and then you can speed up and follow on behind them. So you could have these convoy ships trading places because of advancements in technology. As far as passing a ship, I think we have a moral obligation. Please write it into your science fiction, write it into your papers, that if a group of people are willing to risk their lives and all their fortune to go settle a star, don't pass them and claim all the resources. I feel that whoever is brave enough to first go to a star should possess a fraction of the resources of that star system. Now, you might pass them and you might claim 30%. But when they arrive a few generations later, be friendly with them and help them out. So I think we need to get that into our culture. Sorry, I need to keep going. Okay, intergalactic. You thought this was way out. You could, in theory, down here in the lower right is the Milky Way. You could set up a long path of civilizations along a route through stars across the Milky Way. And you could have somebody start out at the beginning of the path and just go like a bat out of hell down that path. And every time they pass a star system, someone turns on their laser and they go a little faster. Okay? So I'm saying, I firmly believe that interplanetary settlement is possible, and then interstellar travel is probably possible, and then this convoy thing is probably possible, and if you can do this, then intergalactic travel is possible. I don't know when it'll happen. 2 minutes. Okay, now, one of the problems here is how do you slow down at the other end? Okay, you have all these settlements shining their laser to accelerate you toward maybe Andromeda or one of the smaller, galaxies in our cluster, the larger Magellanic Cloud or somewhere. How do you slow down? You don't have all these settlements to slow down. Okay, maybe there's a really advanced technology where you can slow down a tiny seed ship and, establish life that way. Maybe you do a lot of gravity turns in a circle, and you start establishing settlements as you go in this circle. And then you repeat the circle several times. Now, by the way, this is a really big circle, because you're going so fast you can barely turn. Okay, but I'm just saying it's not impossible, and if you guys have come up with a better idea, please suggest it. I'm running out of time, so the impact on the future. Okay, first of all, I don't want to be stuck on one planet. There's lots of things that could go wrong here. There's a lot of resources out among the asteroids. And I don't want to be stuck in one star system. Our distant ancestors being stuck in one star system. But as I said at the beginning, many plans call for leaving the sun, going somewhere, slowing down and stopping. And then living there for a while. And then another group of people, several generations later, may or may not decide to go to another star. So we're expanding like one star here, 2 stars, 3, a few stars at a time. Whereas this thing sets up a culture where you're saying, we're just going to blaze a path right across the galaxy and establish a lot of settlements as we go. And that's kind of a dramatic future. So I wanted to stretch your imaginations. I think I'm out of time.
There's a few more minutes for questions.
Okay, and with the next speaker identify themselves and you can start setting up. Okay, I will take questions in a moment. So here's the basic maneuver. You have a convoy of ships. You establish settlements as you go. The first ship establishes settlements. They help out the later ships. You trade places. Okay, James.
Yeah, what's the absolute maximum that a monster light sail could conceivably catch? The laser. So what's the longest distance you might have? Because I would think that each time these siege ships, or whatever later siege ships pass, they would be expected to give a little bit more boost, to go a little bit faster.
Yes.
And you could use a light sail as a braking, a mag sail as a braking mechanism to come in. I would think that.
Okay, there's a lot of things I glossed over, and I haven't even put a lot of energy into writing this up. I'm still working on a white paper for it.
I wrote a little bit of
so one of your questions was how far away can a light sail catch a laser beam? I don't know. Jeff Landis is the person I'd start with at NASA Glenn. But you can focus them. You can have very big structures. I should have mentioned. So as the first ship passes the star, it shines a laser back and decelerates the little seed ships. But then later, another convoy ship is passing a star, and the civilization of that star can turn on their lasers to first, they first accelerate supply ships in front of them, and they can do this for years. They can start like decades ahead of time and send out a whole series of little supply ships along the route to be picked up later. Then the big convoy ship passes, and they give it a little bit of a boost with their lasers too. And now the convoy ship is trying to pick up all these little seeds that are dangled along its path, and they might have to accelerate those seed ships a little to catch them. There's lots of little subtleties like that. I didn't have time to draw them up.
that requires quite a bit of energy to
Yes.
bring in the
Yes. Energy is a big thing needed here, and that's why you might not do this until you have automated artificial intelligence and use minimal energy. Okay, in the front row, and then Andrew. Okay.
The voice of the skeptic, if we can be realistic for a second, you would probably guarantee you would get a question like this, but you use words like out there but feasible, and you use phrases like in theory it's possible, and you say things like and we probably will. But
Actually, I didn't say that, but other people have.
But just because you assert these things, it doesn't make it so. So my question is, what makes you so confident that this is actually feasible or possible or plausible?
Okay, the question is, what makes me believe this is feasible or possible? It doesn't violate the laws of physics, and a lot of things that don't violate the laws of physics have come true in the past. We are increasing our production of energy and our use of energy, so the vast quantity of energies may not be a limitation. Laser propulsion seems feasible, and there are alternatives to it.
But you say if now you're asserting that it does not break the laws of physics, you acknowledge you're not figuring out the details. How do you know the details don't need the laws
nobody's going to work out these details for quite a while. And the people who will be most interested in this will be living out among the asteroids. They're going to be the ones who are going to, start researching it in detail. So we got a long time to work on this. I don't think I'll be able to convince you. Okay.
Well, I'm
but
being a skeptic. I love the idea. It's a brilliant idea, but it's just reality check. That's all I'm trying to do.
yeah, and I'm deliberately not putting a year on it. I'm not going to say we're going to do it in 100 years. I'm just going to say we're on a path that looks like it might lead to this. Who's the next speaker? Come on up. Thank you.